G'day and welcome back to the channel for part 2 of the Armattan Gecko 3-inch build. Of course with Byte. And hopefully in this video we will be getting through a good proportion, although there won't be any testing today, so that might be sort of added on to the end of this sequence because it's raining out there and it's horrible. So what have we got to do here? Let's just get to this camera. First up, motors need to be added to the frame, and they're here. And everything needs to be tinned. All the contacts, like, they've already been tinned. There's got to have some wire added to it, the correct wires. This little baggie here, this has the plug assembly I think I'll be going for. So that's got to be all soldered up with its wires. This bad boy has to have some wires removed. And also, I should have mentioned, if I go in this nice Foxair box and pull out this tiny little origami box, which it breaks a bit more every time you open it. There's a spacer, and that is suitable for the mountain here. That's excellent. I've also got 4, I think they're 1mm spacers in there, as well as some screws and some more mounting hardware and the remote. Although it does not appear that there is a camera stand, a camera mount for it included in that package. A lot of other stuff, but yeah. Oh. So I've got the camera mount there. Once I've tinned all these up, it will just come time for mounting and attaching. So we'll go through all that, and I'll cover the points as I come to them. But for now, I'm pretty sure it's time to get into it. So cue montage. Alright, in order to expedite this, I'm going to do this all at 8 times and do a voiceover. So here you can see I'm soldering up the receiver, and there's the plug and the little assembly with the capacitor. Now I'm going to dismantle most of it and go about tinning things up. I'm just taking out all the bolts I added, making sure all my bits are in a little container. And here I'm just showing you where I will be attaching the wires. Now it's wrapping up the plug and the capacitor and giving them a home, trimming the cables and attaching those to the ESC. I'm just tinning them up. I'm going to put hot glue into that, as you can see there. Now I'm removing the cables, I'm just covering the ends, letting that dry separately. Then I came back later and gave it another sort of covering layer to keep it all together, and then hot glued it to the back of the camera case. Then hot glue in here, and be careful using a lighter, and you'll need some sort of piece of rubbish to remove the excess glue. Don't burn yourself using hot glue. Now it's attaching the battery cable and plug to ESC, and there's a bit of flux. I'm going to flux it up. Make sure I don't flux it up too bad. There's a lot of flux. And attaching the cables. And the flux really helps to get that solder to flow. It really helps here. It is, especially when you're using a USB powered iron like I am. It's one of the things that really helps you get the job done. And the positive cable. Now I'm going to tin up where I'm going to attach the motors, although I actually ended up attaching on different sides of the ESC because of how I routed the cables, as we'll come to later. Now I'm just checking the waterproofing there. And now I'm going to attach the motors.
Take note here that you'll see me put screws in and then take them out. I'm going to be putting some TPU arm guards on this, and I'm going to have to use longer screws, but I just wanted to check that, you know, I wasn't going to damage by putting in longer screws anyway.
Alright, so I'm going to route the wires from these front motors down the body and in under the front ESC, so I'm going to tin these wires here, here and here on both sides, and then the back ones will go straight to the ESC.
Okay, so now here I'm doing that tinning of the other side and working out the routing of the wires here from the motors. So here we are, just attaching those motor wires, and I'll just go through and get them on. And I wasn't really happy with that one there, so I came back and I did it again. I did end up lifting all the stacks with either squishies or an extra little spacer bit, and that allowed for me to run a lot of the wires underneath, which was pretty nice and kept the build nice and tidy. As you can see, those guys there running under both stacks. Hopefully there won't be too much problems with interference from the ESC pulses going down the motor wires and the VTX. If there is, I'll have to figure out another solution, but not much can be done, right? And there's the back wires, last one going on here, just a nice short route. Now this does mean I have to take off the back motors if I want to work on the underside of the ESC, but it does keep the build nice and clean. And on to tuning up the FC and the two UART pad pairs and a 5V and ground, and then the corresponding inputs to the Byte VTX. Now here I'm adding 2 cables. I did end up actually replacing these cables, but as you can see here, they're just going to run underneath and supply the power to the VTX, and the capacitor requirement is satisfied by the capacitor, of course, on the plug-in point. Now I'm just working out how long they need to be, which was kind of redundant because I replaced them. Yay! Now chucking the stack back on to wire up the radio control receiver. So I'm going with a crossfire receiver here, and I'm going to be mounting it in this lovely little TPU 20x20 stack, and I'll cover that in the TPU parts to come up near the end, or near the end. And that is a nice little fit, and it's just going to wire straight down there, but I'm going to allow some excess to help me work on it at another time if I want to, so it's easy to pull that out, and there's just enough flex in that whole mounting system to allow for that to work.
Pause montage. I just wanted to take a minute to sort of stop and go over a couple of things, some changes that I decided to make since I stopped doing the last shot in the montage there. So let me just switch over to the camera and I'll show you. So here you can see that I have these 2 thick lines running forward to bring power to the Byte unit. I'm going to replace them with these thinner lines. Hopefully that's not too loud there, sorry. Just because these are thick and horrible, and the thing is, you've got to connect this unit to the quad through these 4 points here. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's is that positive? Yeah, TX, RX, and voltage and ground. So it's a bit of a shame that there isn't a plug on here I could use. That would be really nice, because the way this connects is it connects directly to the battery power source over here, and we'll have to run under the ESC, and then the TX, which and that will connect to the, this is the top of the Shark Byte, so this will connect to the top of this pair of boards. And then I've got to also connect here up over to here, and that's sitting somewhat like that in the quad. So I just have some concerns about later on when I'm coming to, you know, do any servicing or anything about that. But I was thinking about using a plug system for it, but I can't find a plug I want to run 16 volts 1 amp through that's small. I mean, yeah, that I want to use, and I can't find the male side anyway, so, you know, whatever. Apparently I don't have any spare. So that's one thing. I'm just going to change these wires, and that's how I'm going to connect the Shark Byte unit. And also, you see these 4 little black spacers? They're 1mm spacers. Can't pick that up there. But they're going to go under the main stack just to add that little bit of extra height for airflow. Apart from that, what we have to do from here is, of course, get the camera in there and figure out what I'm going to do with this massively long cable when I really want to run it that far. So something like that. I don't know. Be nice if there was 2 cables in there. I mean, I wouldn't even mind paying a bit extra, couple extra dollars for that. One other thing, I can't remember which motor it is. One of the holes is stripped here, so I'm probably going to have to order a replacement motor, which is just joyous, but we'll see if I can get away with it. Continue montage.
I am trying to record the voiceover of my cat and washing machine and someone driving the car outside and noise, and oh my god. So here I'm just replacing the wires that are going to go forward and power the Shark Byte VTX, and then I'm going to be putting in and twisting them to isolate them as well. And then I'm going to be putting in the washers underneath the stack, the little rubber ones, just to sort of lift it up and extend that height a bit. I do later come back and put in the little black ones there. Now I'm just strip the wires for the receiver, and I'm going to go wire that in, and that's pretty straightforward. It's TX to RX and RX to TX, and then 5 volt and ground. Do them on, and when you're soldering these with a bigger iron tip, just sort of don't try to push onto it, just sort of touch and let the heat transfer in and the solder do its work, and the solder will, you know, and when in doubt, flux it out. So there I'm mocking up how I'm going to run the wires for the VTX, putting on the house for the receiver, and yeah, attaching those wires, lining them up and attaching them. I was trying to make it all super pretty and neat, but yeah, has to just come in one by one. Don't try to do too much. Just if you're not sure about the solder, about that little application of the iron, then just come back and try another way. And now it's time to attach the wires to the Shark Byte VTX. The whole half the purpose of this build. The other half's the Armattan frame, of course. Lovely frame. It has been really nice building on it, I have to say. I like building quads, but this has been really good. So there you go. I am tucking the wires in there. Although it's been a little frustrating, because you'll see why. But anyway, and that just snaps down. They just sort of they just push over and it holds it in. Yeah, we'll see if I have any problems with that, but it's pretty cool. So I'm just removing the front cage and getting it ready to solder up. I'm going to turn it over, do one side, and the idea being that I've got one longer than the other so that I can spin the whole thing round and work on it to disassemble. And this actually comes in really handy later, as you'll see. So by one along or the other, I mean one set of wires. The RX and TX, or the UART wires, are longer than the power, so it would, you know, one can be manipulated a lot more. It allows you to spin the device. And I'm just get myself happy with those. Not really happy there, so a bit more flux, not to flux it up. And putting in the hard TPU, Bowden tube stand and a squishy bit. And there I'm testing out the antenna and realizing that, yeah, that's a problem. So, yep, keep that for another quad. Uh-oh. Oh no. And here's why it became really handy to be able to take that out and spin it round. Wait for it. 3, 2, 1, and Rant.
But let me just say that the use of plastic screws in this device is subpar. And as you may not be able to see, I'm sure I can get a photograph at some point. And sorry about the microphone recording on the GoPro. This screw stripped out. Now you think, alright, well you've obviously glued it in with your waterproofing, but I waterproofed it, dried it separately, as you saw it was in 2 parts in the earlier video, and still just stripped out straight away with no effort. So it's really not good enough, Fat Shark. So how am I going to fix this? How am I going to get this connector stuck onto that board? Well, I'm going to detach it. And I'm going to open up this connection and pull apart the boards and stick it on there and put it back together. Am I happy I have to do this? No. Anyway.
The camera is mounted, the VTX is mounted, the flight stack and receiver are mounted, but obviously there's something missing. The aerial I have is not going to work. I can use it for testing, but it's not going to work. And I have a full-sized 950 megahertz antenna here. Again, not ideal. Now I can solve that with the race antenna. I don't want to. I really want to use the Immortal T mini one. But I can use that for testing. And I can use this for testing. I'm just going to have to wait for parts to come in. I'm going to go and double check my orders, make sure I've got the parts coming in. I'm going to check the tracking on them. But yeah, I guess you'll get lucky through the magic of editing. Anyway, in the meantime, there's one really important job to do on here still, not including turning it on and configuring it and anything else. We need to test it. And I don't mean turning it on and testing it, I mean getting the multimeter on it and checking for continuity where there shouldn't be continuity. In other words, checking for shorts. So I'll get this camera set up and then we can go over that. What you need to do is find out if there's a problem with the shrew. So, turn it on. Select the continuity check. Check that it's working. Come along and check your main terminals. Okay, cool. And then we've got to run along here and check. We'll just run and check our... Now, in a lot of setups, you'd have to do this maybe a bit more apart, but it should be quite easy to get to everything here. Maybe not with these. maybe with an actual pointy probe one. Oh yeah, you're gonna get that. If you get this, it's totally normal. Because with the wires connected, that's why the motor sort of finishes that circuit. So that's fine. So these are the more difficult ones to check. There's nothing there. There's one pair that I didn't check then.
Not entirely sure. Okay.
So then there's only this point underneath here that needs checking. Alright, screw it. We'll get the other ones. Get the pokey ones out. Ugh, fingers. So clumsy today. Oh. Dumbass. Because it's over here. Okay, so everything seems to be checking out here anyway. I've been mucking about on that for a few minutes. It's really important that you do check over your work and make sure, even though you're going to use a smoke stopper when you test it off a battery pack, it is still very important. Oh, there's a few bloopers going to be at the end of this. See how much of a moron I am. Right, so here we are then. We've gotten the vast majority of the build complete. The camera's in, it's all wired up, everything's waterproofed and connected to the VTX, the receiver's connected to the flight controller is connected to the ESC, and the ESC is connected to my elbow. What? To the motors. And there you go. Yep, we've got that strip screw there. That's a very unfortunate occurrence. I would like to replace them all with metal screws now, but we're just going to leave that as is and hope for the best. I do want to replace these with some silvers, with some steel, shiny screws. So we've still got to go through the 3D prints, and I will be doing those once I have the antennas in. So that will have to wait. But through the magic of editing, let's go. Look what I have here. But first, we're going to have to check out these 3D prints. Also, just kidding.
So first up, we've got the Nano Crossfire TPU holder. It's a 30 by 30, but there's a 20 by 20, and there's one without a mount. And these are from Haku 3D on Thingiverse. As you go down in the description, you'll find instructions and links to all the STLs, or you can download them directly from his website. And here's a closer look at that 20 by 20 mount. Actually works really well. I might have to twist that round on the stack there. And here is the source of the rest of the 3D printed parts I'm going to be using. I'm using TPU 95A hardness. Not going to be using all of these parts, but a couple of them. Probably this little mount here and the outside of the bumpers here. Although I have mounted them backwards, as you'll see in a sec. Here we are. Here's the front of the quad. There's a little bumper on it. There's a picture. See, I've used them upside down. I guess these are for soft mounting, but I've just used them like that. As you can see, that's set up there for the Immortal T antenna, and I might just make some more of the fronts to go onto the rear there. Oh, it's blowing a gale outside. Anyway, there's the front view just for fun. Alrighty, let's get this build done.
Okay then, I guess it's time to put these on. So, slight problem. The antenna, I did have my micro T come in, but I've orientated that the wrong way around. So I think the first thing I should try is reorientating this mount 90 degrees that way and try to mount it up. This should be absolutely fine. Apart from the fact it's going to stay, I'm going to have to try to bend that up there somehow. So with a little bit of fandangling, this should be able to get in there. But yeah, anyway, let's get all that done.
So I'm just going to undo these bolts and undo the posts to take this little receiver's house off and spin it around 90 degrees, as I said. And then I'm going to be stuffing in the antenna. But before I do that, I've got to cover or provide some protection to those little metal arms sticking out of the antenna. And I'm going to be doing that momentarily with a bit of old biro pen. Just, you know, you don't need much, so just get it, cut it off, and then secure it with some heat shrink. Pretty straightforward and makes a nice little protective coat for your antenna. Then I've got a real challenge. How am I going to get it in there? And as you can see, I didn't mess about. I just chopped it, opened it up, and put it in. And one of the beauties about plastic is certain plastics are very amenable to a little bit of welding with heat. So you've got to be very careful when you do this and not get the plastic stuck to your fingers and burn yourself. So I don't recommend you do this at home. But as you can see, that's how I have re-secured the antenna in this little home. And there you go, that's that mounted. All I really am going to be doing apart from that is adding a bit of hot glue to secure the UFL connector, as you can see me doing here. It's just a matter of getting it all snapped down over the nice little snaps on that and moving on to the antenna for the VTX. So of course I have to take the mount out for the camera to get that in. So I get that in there and make it comply. I did end up rerunning this out of the front, as you'll see later, but more or less similar in how it feeds out of the VTX there. I'm just checking there's clearance enough for it to spin. It's very tight, but it's clear. And then I've got to stick the antenna and the little widget at the top, which is probably designed for a thinner antenna cable than that. Anyway, I managed to get it on there, and then it was just a matter of putting the plate back on, securing the power connection, and putting on the sticker for the top, and of course, the strap. Well, at least I thought it was at this stage. Little did we know.
Okie dokie, there she is. Now all we have to do before the moment of truth is go to the computer and configure it. So we just need to tell the flight controller there's a Fat Shark serial link and do some minor odds or ends, but let's hop to that now and get on with it. Here we are at the computer. Let's find out if it's going to plug in and work. We have connection. First thing we want to do is go into ports and set up our appropriate UARTs. Receiver is on R1. Is on UART 1, sorry. So that's where we're going to have our serial RX. The Shark Byte is on UART 3. And I'm going to have to double check this baud rate. Yep, 115200, that's fine. Alright, so now go on to save and reboot. Connect. With configuration. That's probably absolutely fine. Oh, my cat's going sick. This doesn't have a barometer on it. Anyway, arming angle, you want to set that to 180.
I'm just going to go with the stock tune for now and come back later and do bidirectional D-shot, I think. Because that's really up to you if you want to use that or not. And yep, that's already OSD's on. Turn on that and set these as you want. For now, I'm just going to save reboot. Come through and set your OSD up as you want. Save that. Well, I'm going to have to make sure that the Byte firmware has the latest, transmitter has the latest firmware on it. So what we'll do is we'll just set it up for Canvas now, and then I'm going to update the Fat Shark transmitter. So you want to type in OSD. In fact, the easiest way to do this is get OSD. This is the one you want here. Set to auto. Set. Paste that in. Equals MSP. And then set display DisplayPort underscore MSC underscore serial equals, so this has to be the UART that the flight controller is connected to, -1. So it's connected to 3. Always worth just having a quick double check. To 3. So 2. And then save. So I'm going to go update the firmware on this transmitter, and then we're going to have the moment of truth. I'll come back here and reconfigure it if I've stuffed it up.
And finally, the moment of truth is here. And all that's left to do is really plug it in, make sure it doesn't blow up. And once we've done that, bind it and flash the firmware on the receiver side. On the receiver side of the control link. So let's do it. So I've got the goggles on, and I'm going to set up the camera to look at this. So we'll get it done. Let's just bend this aerial back a little. And I want to see that everything's working on the OSD and everything too. So I'll just plug this in and get you set up. Okie dokie. So I'll crouch down so I can join you here. Get somewhere to put my foot. Let's plug this in. There's a hair annoying me. That's on my hand. Ready to go. Plug it in. Okay, so that seems alright. I might have to move the camera forward just a smidgen. Cool, anyway. Alright, so now I need to let it bind and update. And that will go ahead and do that. Nice. Okay, so we're almost done with the update here. Now I've still got to set up the modes, of course, so we're going to hop back into Betaflight and do that. And then we should be good for a test flight. Of course, I've got to move the camera forward as well. I'm not getting a solid green light. I should have a solid green light. Alright, let's do a power cycle. Power back up. I've definitely got a flashing light there. Solid green light. Okay. I'm not sure exactly what happened there, but there you go. If that happens and you don't get a solid green light, might as well give it another go. What could go wrong? And it might work. Back to the computer.
Okay, so let's get those modes done. Now, I did quickly hop in here and set it up to the
correct option. You'll have to use whatever suits your controller. That's already been done. And I've got the remote on here. Actually, let's just go back there. Really? What? Okie dokie. Back to the bench to check that out. Oh wow, that's gone extremely slow. I don't know what's going on with the refresh rate. It was better when it wasn't recording, but it works. So I had to go back to the manual for the flight controller, and apparently it's not happy with it on anything but TX4. I mean UART 4 for the Crossfire protocol. I will include a link to the manual below. But there you go. If you're having that kind of a problem, check the manual of the flight controller and make sure there's no inversion on any other UART. Right, let's get on with the modes. So we'll set up an arm. Boom. Add range. Add range. Add range. Add range. Okie dokie. Alright, now it's time to check the motor spin in the right direction. So, oops, my computer's lagging a bit. I'll just give it. Yeah, it's the wrong way. Right way. Right way. Right way. Okay. So then, to check what motor that is, that's number 1. This one's spinning the wrong way. So disconnect and start new video recording because this won't record. Quick note, unfortunately it won't let me record BL Heli 32. I haven't set that up for some reason. Anyway, so I'm just going to go in and swap that motor around. It's pretty simple. You go there, you read your setup, you find your tab, you swap the motor, and then you're done. Anyway, let's do it now. I'll walk you through it with the words. So read setup, reading, everything read. So just reverse that one, and that's that. That's done. Now I can close that and reconnect here. Go back to motors, put the master back on. And don't forget, no props. Nice, everything is spinning the right way. So Bob's your father's brother, put it back together. Let's go for a test flight.
Right, so she's finally ready after all of that. That was a bit of fun messing around with the UARTs. Goes to show you should always check your user manual for everything, just in case you're having a problem. You know, and don't rely on the fact that you've done it 7 or 8 times or maybe 10 times before or more. There could always be something you missed. RTFM. Anyhow, let's get this thing in the air. Well, apparently the trials continues. You see that? Is this your wiggling? Back to the bench.
4 days later. What has happened is that I've been punished for using second-hand motors from the other quad. And they're not, I'm pretty sure anyway, I mean I'm not 100% sure at this point,
but that's got 3 bolts in it, and I don't think one of them is actually fastened down properly. And this is just completely stripped out. These must have been from the original XJB quad with its 3 mounting bolt mounting system, and the way it used to like to break off. Yeah. So that's unfortunate. I'll have to get rid of those. I have also ordered a 1000 nanofarad capacitor. So I'm going to take that and probably actually stick that right on these terminals and replace this little 220. I think it's 220 in here. No, 22 nanofarad that I've got on the terminals here. And I'll keep the 220 on this. And that's hopefully going to give me all the filtering I need, so there'll be no electrical noise. But as you can see from the video, there was electrical noise there. And now I should also mention that I have gone over over the tests. I've done a few different test flights. I have got it flying a little bit better than that, but that was just through some sort of mechanical messing about. As you can see, I've swapped over those mounts to soft mount the motors properly. Now if I can, I'm going to come up to the microphone. Alright, so here's the noise. That's the front motors. I'm going to hold down. It's one of the back motors. You can hear how rough that is. Oh, and this one's got strip bolts, so it's no good anyway. So yeah, they're just rough and buggered. So, new motors. So I'm going to get on and put those on. And still haven't had the capacitor come in, but that should come in soon. Maybe a couple more days. But you know, there's a lot of editing magic going on in this video, so let's just have a little bit more. Maybe. And if you're still watching by now, like, oh, thank you. So I'm going to stick these motors on, and the next time you'll see me, we'll be outside ready for a test flight. So after all that, let's give it a test flight. Muy bien. That was really good. It was the motors. As you can see, I've not got a giant capacitor on the back of this thing. Focus. There you go. So that having that unclean mounting from those motors and that dirty, horrible bearings in one of them, that's what caused that problem. There you go. Learn something. I've still got that cap coming in. I think I might put that. I think I might put that on there because there is a little bit of noise in the signal or in the video feed. But if you look here, I mean, like, there's the antenna. There's a capacitor here. There's a capacitor here. There's a 915 megahertz antenna here. There's giant cables running just by it. So that could be better placed. Awesome. So I'm going to charge up some packs and go for a rip. Nice.
Let's go.
Look here. Look. Damn it. Fucking thing.
So that was the magnet with all the screws. I just dropped it and they went fucking everywhere. Oh yeah, you see my rig? Ah, my God. That's gonna go on bloopers.
It's not gonna work, is it?
So this is my budgie camera rig. It's some parts of an old chair, bit of PVC pipe that was lying around, a few 3mm screws to sort of hold it in there, and yeah. It's actually not too bad for a budgie camera rig. It's not the worst thing I've ever come up with. And I'm definitely keen to get a better camera setup going here. I have been playing with some phones. I mean, not this one because it's not got a fantastic lens in it. But I wouldn't mind, you know, maybe even a phone on an arm. But that would get away of this. So maybe it could come down from here. That could work. I could remount that. Anyway, bridges.